and welcome to Katie's Insight, where I give my insight on all kinds of things, including news, business, finance, entertainment, current events. Most importantly right now, because I think this is the most current situation we can have, is stimulus. We are in some very dire situations. I don't have to tell y'all. And on top of that, guys, we have major programs that are running out this week. We have a new deadline. I want to tell you guys the new deadlines for stimulus checks, the new deadlines when it comes to stimulus packages, and we have a deadline for today. We might actually get something done by today, guys, which I'm going to go over into detail with. Now, let me go ahead and tell you where we are at. As you guys know, for months, we have been nowhere. In fact, I think the last movement we really had on any of this was when Trump, back in August, did those executive orders to help people who were on unemployment, rental insurance, student loans. That's really the only thing we've had, and that only lasted for about 5 or 6 weeks. And he had to get the funding, as you guys know, from FEMA. Everything ran dry. So the last few months, we haven't known what is going to happen, and we've had Nancy Pelosi, who was staunchly leading the Democrats, saying we're not going to piecemeal any part of this deal, suddenly get behind a very small bill. Y'all can't make, I can't make this up. This is why I've been telling you how much I dislike her and her shadiness, and I've been calling what she's been doing and every move of it. Now, there are a few things in play with this, and let me tell you kind of where we're at. We have to get stimulus passed this week for a few reasons. Number one, we have unemployment ending right around Christmas for millions of people. And when I say that, I'm not talking about the unemployment stimulus. That's been long gone for months, and we've tried to make do. I'm talking about unemployment, period. Now, I want to explain to people who aren't on it or don't understand the process why this is so damaging and detrimental and why this is such a concerning situation when it comes to unemployment. With unemployment, you have regular unemployment, right? Where you are an employee, you pay in the system, and after X amount of time, you meet qualifications, you can get some form of unemployment depending on how much you worked, right? And how much you paid in. But they have other forms of unemployment for the first time ever in history that just passed. One is the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, or like in my area, it's DUA, Disaster Unemployment Assistance. And what that is, that's for gig workers, independent contractors, small business owners. People before who would have never qualified for unemployment can be on it. Now, here's the other thing that you need to understand. Unemployment is only for X amount of weeks. It's only for specific periods of time, guys. So when it comes to unemployment, here's what's scary. Most people are unemployed because of the virus, and they're staying unemployed because of the virus. Most of those people are on extended benefits. You'll see that like the acronyms EB or EBB or different acronyms of that nature. So what that means is their unemployment for their state has run out. Typically that's, it can be 4 to 6 months. It depends on the state in terms of how long their unemployment lasts. Now, the state has their own forms of extended benefits that can kick in, and then the federal government. However, much of that has come and gone, and we've had even more extended benefits with unemployment as a result of the situation. But all of these things are ending right around Christmas. Of course, the time that we're trying to celebrate with our families and get things for our children. Not only can you not afford it, now are we going to be in our homes for Christmas? It's very sad. So understand, guys, most of the people on unemployment will immediately be kicked off because most of them have been on those extended benefits because this has been happening for a while. This is not just like, we ran out of that stimulus. This is a very dire situation. And now we're going from, Larry Kudlow's ultimate optimistic positive, we're in a V-shaped recovery and all this we're hearing. And now we're hearing double dip recession and everybody's acting concerned. I will tell you, that is something that's really bothering me lately, is that now all of a sudden both sides act so concerned about the double dip recession coming. The Republicans openly said, with Mitch McConnell leading the way, we're going to wait and see what happens. And then we had the Democrats saying we're not going to do anything till we get what we want. Except Nancy Pelosi, instead of doing $3.4 trillion, she's not going to piecemeal. Now gets behind $908 billion. So that's where we're at the moment. And this week is going to be really, really critical for all of us because of unemployment as well. The government has to pass a stopgap funding measure or the government runs out of money. Now, I think all of us would love to see these people at the top not get a dime, right? Why should they be paid? I think that should be enacted immediately. But you got to remember all the other workers this will impact, all the other people that need to get on unemployment and maybe can't now because the system's about to crash. So there's a lot at stake here. And right now, December 11th, the end of this week, is the deadline to pass this big stopgap measure as well. Pass some type of introductory funding right now to help us get to whoever becomes the next president. So as we know, Trump seems to be okay with this bill. He hasn't completely come out and accepted it, but he seems to be okay with it from certain things we've said. Biden is pushing the new bill. What's the new bill? The new bill, like I said, the Problem Solvers Caucus, $908 billion, and it's supposed to help us get between now and the next big bill that's passed. Why didn't Nancy Pelosi do this sooner? You guys could have had this sooner, just so you know. Back in July and August, Trump begged and pleaded with her to pass something until the end of December to help people, even to continue that unemployment stimulus, $600. She said no. She said no. She wanted to wait to the last minute and have everybody as absolutely stressed as they could and homeless. And yet, evil old Mitch McConnell didn't want to do anything. I hate all these people, guys. None of these people have clean hands. None of these people are good people, in my opinion. So when it comes to stimulus, that's where we are at. And I would tell you guys, make sure and follow this channel if you want more up-to-date information on the stimulus and how this is all going, because I'm going to be detailing this for you guys and letting you know what's going on when it comes to all of this. And I'm going to be showing you guys where you can get stimulus money in your areas, the states as well. Keep this in mind. The states right now are passing measures to take their CARES Act funding and redistribute it to their people. Now, not all states, unfortunately. I'm going to try to get together a big comprehensive list. It's so much work, but this is something I want to try to do in the next week or so, because there may be stimulus money for you in your area, but you have to act fast to get it. So make sure and subscribe to this channel and hit notifications so you can be alerted if there's stimulus money that's coming to you in your area or that might help you, friends, family. I just want to try to help as many people as possible get by right now. So the other deadline we have with December 11th, guys, is that this is the last week. As far as I'm aware, this is the last week for the Congress to be in session. Then they get to go on their months-long break for Christmas while they get paid around $200,000 a year starting to have months and months and months of time off. Fantastic. These people are fantastic. Y'all, this makes me so mad. One other thing I do want to point out that makes me mad before we get into this. So the Democrats who are so concerned about everybody, you know what they're doing right now? You know what they did this last week? Their big legislation they wanted to get across? Oh, don't worry. It wasn't to help us. It wasn't for a stopgap measure for the government. It wasn't to help, do anything to bridge with stimulus. They made sure to pass laws about plants that you can smoke that sometimes have medicinal properties and sometimes just make you happy or calm. Yeah. And YouTube is by the way, YouTube super censors this stuff, and I had people in the comments being like, there are all kinds of names you could have said. What's wrong with you? I don't do any of this. No disrespect. I'd probably enjoy it if I could. I got a real messed up body here that's sensitive to everything. And I'm talking everything. I can take a child's Tylenol and feel funny. So it's a nervous system issue. So just to let you know, if I'm real roundabout, I'm sure there are 1,000 creative ways to talk about it. I'm just not in that world. No disrespect. I am all about whatever you can do to fix yourself naturally at this point with the kind of healthcare system we have. It's kind of what we have to do. We have to go back to natural medicine to some extent or kind of do our own concoctions. I'm not telling you you should do that, but I'm saying I've been in those life or death situations. When the healthcare system is not going to help you, they can't help you, or the healthcare workers are fed so full of misinformation they give you the wrong information, and you got to just figure it out, or you're not going to be here. So with that being said, here's what I wanted to talk about today, this morning. We have a congressman who he is from the Problem Solvers Caucus directly. Now, he spoke yesterday with CNN's Jake Tapper, and he said we actually could get the bill passed today. So I want to pull some of this up. Did y'all hear that? I hope the sound is okay. We're a super professional, legit situation here. Good gracious. All right. So let's go ahead and look at some of this. So this is from CNN.com. It says senators express optimism about virus stimulus proposal coming earlier this week. And it says, ew, keep having stuff in my throat. I'm so sorry. From Washington, a bipartisan group of senators on Sunday appeared optimistic that lawmakers would put forward a proposal for another virus stimulus package, saying details about the piece of legislation would likely come earlier this week. Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, who is part of a bipartisan group of senators hashing out a compromise on a stimulus bill, told CNN's Jake Tapper on the State of the Union that they are close to an agreement and it could come as early as Monday. I think we have got the top line numbers done. We are working right now on the language so that we can have as early as tomorrow a piece of legislation, he said. Warner said it will be a 4-month emergency relief package with a $908 billion price tag. It remains unclear whether Congress will vote on such a package as Republicans and Democratic leadership negotiate how much of a stimulus plan to include in separate, massive funding bills to keep the government open. The virus relief proposal, Warner said, will give targeted relief to the unemployed, for people in food insecurity, rental assistance, small businesses that have run out of the PPP, funds for additional funds to those minority businesses that have been extraordinarily hit hardest. We put additional assistance in finally for broadband, which we know is an academic necessity, and additional dollar amounts in vaccine distribution and assistance for hospitals. I think the broadband one, I'll tell you guys, I think that's fantastic. I know I live in Oklahoma. True story. When I came to Oklahoma, downtown Oklahoma City, I went into coffee shops that didn't have internet you could access. And this was in like 2015. There are still some places of the country that really don't have much internet access, if at all. There are places that are so rural you can't really get anything out here. I'm not joking, and we don't really think about it that much, especially if you're not somewhere that's really remote or in the Midwest. But with the shift and all these kids having to stay home and do remote learning, as well as everybody working from home, which is me and my guy at this point, it's very, very interesting what is happening and what is transpiring, because we sometimes, both of us, we can't hardly get on the internet at all because it's being so overused here. So we absolutely need to bump that up. I'm just saying, I think that's fantastic that they're doing that. Out of all the crap they do wrong, give some credit where it's due. And despite the fact that neither Republicans nor Democrats are getting everything they would like to see in this bill, Warner told Tapper that he has pretty high assurance there will be enough votes to support passage of the measure. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy of Louisiana also weighed in Sunday on a timeline for the legislation, telling Fox News that this final language will probably come out early this week. This is good, guys. We have this for more than one place. Meanwhile, Senator Joe Manchin explained Sunday that the group of lawmakers came together after the election to figure out a path forward on the package and stressed that a deal should come forward this week. Well, it's a deal that must come together. We don't have a choice now. It's one of those things that it has to be done. Manchin, a West Virginia Democrat, told NBC. Fantastic, guys. Lawmakers have been working in recent days to figure out a new stimulus package as Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell has made it clear that he'd like to see a proposal by Monday. Though talks moved slowly this weekend over the package and the spending bill to keep the government open before funding runs out December 11th, according to two sources familiar with the matter. Multiple issues still divide the two parties, but sources said two big matters remain unresolved on a relief package. Liability protections for businesses, workers, and other Republicans want, and funding for state and local governments that Democrats are demanding, as we're aware. It says, aides familiar with the process previously told CNN that members are working around the clock and have broken into teams to hammer out specific sections of the bill. So far, the stimulus bill includes $300 a week in enhanced federal unemployment benefits, a continued pause on student loan payments, an eviction moratorium, another round of PPP, $16 billion for vaccine development and distribution, as well as virus testing and tracing, among other relief measures. So that's where we're at right now. Now I want to hear directly from Mark Warner, and he's going to explain some of this more into detail and talk about some more about the timeline. So let's take it away, Mark.
Critical leadership role in these bipartisan negotiations, Democratic Senator Mark Warner of the great Commonwealth of Virginia. Senator Warner, you've been a critical part of this team negotiating the $908 billion deal. President-elect Biden told me he thinks it should pass, but House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer called it just a starting point for further negotiations. Are Schumer and Pelosi at this point hindering your ability to get this deal done?
Well, Jake, this is a compromise. There's been a group of 8 of us. It's grown to 10 that have worked over the last 2 weeks every day, except for Thanksgiving. We're going to have another multi-hour call today. For those of us who are Democrats, we would have preferred a bigger plan. For my Republican colleagues, they would have liked the plan that Mitch McConnell put out at about $500 billion. This is a compromise. Neither side is going to get the full amount or all the component parts that they wanted. But as you pointed out, with the economy weakening, with 200,000 additional cases of the virus yesterday, and with so many of these initiatives from the first CARES package running out as soon as the day after Christmas, it would be, what I call stupidity on steroids if Congress doesn't act. And We're going to keep at it. I think $908 billion for a targeted 4-month relief plan for a bridge to a Biden administration. I think this is the direction that Congress needs to move in.
In October, the White House reportedly offered Congress a $1.8 trillion deal, but Democratic leaders said no. They wanted a $2.2 trillion deal. Now you're looking at about half of what the White House offered, and we don't even know if you can get that passed. It seems as though the negotiating strategy of the Democratic leaders, Schumer and Pelosi, blew up in their face to the detriment of the American people.
Well, I will say this. A number of my Republican colleagues dismissed those efforts by the president right before the election because they thought he was trying to, in a sense, buy a win before the election. There's lots of what ifs, what we should have done, could have done. Where we are right now in early December, the clock is ticking. We've got to make sure we pass legislation to make sure the government continues to be funded, a defense authorization bill, and I think potentially the most critical component, this $908 billion that will give targeted relief for the unemployed, for people in food insecurity, rental assistance, small businesses that have run out of their PPP funds. We put additional funds, particularly to those minority businesses that have been extraordinarily hard hit. We put additional assistance in, finally, for broadband, which we all know is an economic necessity, additional dollars around the vaccine distribution, assistance for hospitals. I think we've got the categories, and I think we've got the top line numbers done. We are working right now on language so that we can have as early as tomorrow a piece of legislation. And again, if there are folks on either end of the spectrum that says it's too much or they don't want to go forward, we just got to push through. And I think common sense may this time win out.
Well, as you know, the legislation you're working on as of now does not provide direct payments to Americans, and it does include some sort of liability protections for companies. Senator Bernie Sanders said because of that, he can't vote for it. He said, quote, "This proposal provides 100% legal immunity to corporations whose irresponsibility has led to the deaths of hundreds of workers. It would continue to provide a get-out-of-jail-free card to companies that put the lives of their workers and customers at risk," unquote. What's your response to Senator Sanders?
Well, my response is, Senator Sanders respectfully is not involved in these negotiations, and his characterization is just not accurate. We are looking at trying to give some level of a timeout to allow states, if they want to put in place standards. We have already, for example, in Virginia, put in COVID standards. That part of the discussion is vigorous and ongoing. And those who want the direct stimulus checks, that will be something that a President-elect Biden will grapple with. We're looking at a 4-month emergency relief package. And I would say to any politician in either party, they're going to go out and tell the tens of millions of unemployed workers who lose their unemployment check on the day after Christmas, people that will be kicked out of their apartments without rental assistance comes January 1st, the small businesses, the restaurants who've been trying to struggle through as the weather gets colder, won't be able to do as much outside dining, that somehow $908 billion, $908 billion, bigger than the whole TARP package, is not enough for a 4-month emergency extension. I'd like to see somebody make that case to people who, if we don't act, will be put in harm's way.
Your deal does not yet have buy-in from President Trump or Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. Is McConnell going to be willing to let there be a vote on this?
Well, that's, again, when you put a bipartisan group together, you're going to end up taking incoming from both sides. I think that's what we signed up for. But again, the same thing I said respectfully to Senator Sanders, I'd say to Leader McConnell. Do you really want to send us home without even a vote on something that I have, with pretty high assurance, think would get way beyond 60 votes? The number of Republican senators, both publicly and privately, who've said, hey, you guys have done the right thing, will be there, goes up every day. And I think, again, there are a variety of reports of Republican senators who are talking to President Trump about this issue. I think we'll get there. I think we may have to go through a few more days of drama. We're going to keep our head down working on getting the product out, let the American people weigh in, let all our colleagues weigh in, and I think it'll be a great bridge to the Biden administration.
Senator, before you go, I want to ask you, President Trump is reportedly considering issuing a wave of preemptive pardons for family members and allies like Rudy Giuliani, potentially even a self-pardon. Do you think that those pardons are appropriate? Do you think they would be legal?
I don't think they are appropriate at all. This individual, Mr. Trump, has flaunted the law on a continual basis. Unlike, though, Joe Biden, whatever happens on a going forward basis, that ought to be done by a Justice Department decision. I'm not going to weigh in, or whatever's going to happen in New York will happen or not. I think we're ready to move beyond Donald Trump, whether it is flaunting of the laws, whether it is willingness to undermine democracy. I know we talked off air, Jake. I actually think the American public stepped up and voted in record numbers. There was not foreign interference. We've seen election officials like the lieutenant governor in Georgia and across the country do their job. We've not seen, thank God, the potential of violence both before the election and after the election. We didn't see Trump supporters on Election Day, give them credit as well, show up in ways to intimidate voters. I think the American democracy came through this with flying colors, with the exception of frankly, a sore loser in Donald Trump.
All right, Senator Mark Warner from the great Commonwealth of Virginia, thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it, as always.
Okay, I've made a mock transcript. I want to go over the important points. Let's dive in. So, the interviewer says you've been a critical part in the team with negotiating that $908 billion deal from the Problem Solvers Caucus. He's talking to Mark Warner, who's part of the Problem Solvers Caucus. Biden says he thinks it should pass. Pelosi and Schumer said it's a starting point for negotiations. Now, are they, Pelosi and Schumer, hindering you to get a deal done? Because they're saying it's a starting point, not accepting it. Here's what he says. He says, Jake, this is a compromise. They're about a group of us, about from 2 to 10, that worked the last 2 weeks, every day except for Thanksgiving. We will have another lengthy hours-long call today. Now, Democrats would prefer a bigger bill, and Republicans would like the $500 billion plan. This is a compromise, and neither sides really get what they wanted. But the economy is weakening, the virus is surging, and so many initiatives of the first CARES Act passage are running out. It would be, I love this, stupidity on steroids. Thank you, Mark. Stupidity on steroids if Congress doesn't act. I think $908 billion for a targeted 4-month relief plan for a bidge until Biden's administration or whoever gets in. I think this is a direction we need to move in. He says in October, 1.8 trillion was offered by the Congress, which is not true. It was offered by the White House. So he did. It's always interesting. Now that I'm so knee deep in all this information, it's interesting when I hear the interviewers kind of get details wrong. But, I don't want to say too much because I don't think they're trying to necessarily lie. I think some of them are. Let's be honest. Some of these are just turds who are shills saying whatever. But I also think sometimes they just inundated with so much information, they're just given the notes to work with from their staff. So, and I guess Congress would be an overall word, but it's the White House. So he says, in October, 1.8 trillion was offered by the Congress, aka the White House. Not even aka, it's just the White House. But Democrats said no, they want 2.2 trillion. Now, they are looking at less than half of that 1.8, and we don't know if we can get it passed. It looks like Schumer and Pelosi's negotiations blew up in the American people's faces. This is why me and so many other stimulus commentators have been screaming about Pelosi screwing everything up. So, this is what he says. A number of Republican colleagues dismissed the White House trying to do that because it was Trump trying to buy the election. A lot of what ifs. What could be? What should we do? But the clock is ticking and we need to get the government funded. Defenses, authorization bill, and the critical $908 billion to give relief to unemployment and food insecurity. Rental assistance, PPP, minority businesses, additional assistance in broadband, additional dollars in vaccine distribution, hospitals. I think we got the categories and top line numbers done. We are working right now on language so we can have as early as today a piece of legislation. And again, folks on either side and end of the spectrum, if they think it's too much, don't want to go forward, I think it's common sense that we'll end up winning out. And I agree. And by the way, he was very smooth and non-insulting. I thought this was kind of cool how he did this. I want to read this when the guy brought it up at the Congress. He says, a number of Republican colleagues dismissed the White House. So he kind of shifted it to correct the information without calling him out or being rude. I thought that was great. And that's another thing too, guys. You kind of have to think, the Senate is Republican controlled. The Senate can hardly get on the same page about anything. Almost nothing gets passed because the Senate at this point is so flipping fractured. With that being said, even if Trump and the White House were trying to do negotiations, would the senators actually have gotten on board with it? Would they have come on board with all of those negotiations? I'm not saying they would, I'm not saying they wouldn't. I think this is something to think about, though, and consider, because even though Trump was trying to do that bill and those were floating around, well, it doesn't mean they were going to be passed. It would still have to go through the Senate, who doesn't want to do anything. Something to think about. So, it then says, with legislation you are doing now does not have direct payments, the stimulus checks, and gives liability protections to businesses. Bernie Sanders said because of the liability protections, he won't vote on it. He says it's irresponsible and leads to hundreds of deaths of workers and gives a get-out-of-free jail card for all those deaths. And then this is what he says. He says, Bernie is not involved in these negotiations and his characterization is inaccurate. Burn to Bernie. So he says, we are looking at trying to give a timeout to allow states to put into place the standards we already have. Like in my state, Virginia, we have virus standards. That discussion is vigorous and ongoing. Stimulus checks, that will be for Biden to deal with once his administration goes into place, and then they can actually get something voted on. He says, we are looking on 4-month emergency relief package. I would say to any politicians in either party, and go and tell the tens of millions of unemployment workers that they will lose their unemployment after Christmas. Rental assistants, small businesses, and restaurants won't be able to do any outside dining. But somehow, $908 billion, bigger than the package, is not enough for a 4-month emergency extension. He says, make that case to the people who, if we don't act, will be put in harm's way. Well, I appreciate what he's saying, but we're already in harm's way. We've already been in harm's way with this situation. So then he says, Trump and McConnell had not been bought into this yet. Neither one has. Will McConnell allow a vote on this? I think this is all one we are wondering about, and because, again, if it doesn't pass all places, it doesn't matter. He says that's the key. When you put a bipartisan group together, you will take crap from all sides. But what I said from Bernie, I'll say to McConnell, do you want to send us home without even a vote? And give that high assurance the number of Republicans have said to me privately and publicly that they want to do the right thing and that what we are doing is the right thing and that we will be there to vote. Many Republicans are talking to Trump about this. I think we will have a few days of drama on this, but I think this will get done and out to the American people. And let everyone weigh in and let this be a bridge to the Biden administration. Then he goes in, I don't know if anybody's interested about this, but then he goes into, Trump, I guess there are reports that Trump is now going to pardon himself, his friends, his family, all of these different people and what people think about that. And he basically goes in this rhetoric saying he thinks it's bad because Trump has kind of flouted and skirted around the laws, and now he wants to, go ahead and use them for his own benefit and for himself. I don't know. Honestly, though, because it's media reports, I want to know, who are these sources and are they accurate? Now, if they are, fantastic. But at this point, the media lies so much, and specifically lies about Trump. Every time I hear something wild like this, I take it with a grain of salt. Who knows? Maybe it's true. I'm not saying Trump's immune to making mistakes or having issues, but you just don't know. So, guys, that is where we're at right now when it comes to stimulus. So I'm telling you, stay tuned to this channel, subscribe, hit notifications, stay tuned so you can see what's coming, because I'm going to detail as much as I can, up to the minute, what type of changes we have and what is coming for all of us, because I care about you guys, and on this channel, I want to dedicate myself as much as I can to helping all of you. Okay, guys, if you like this video, please help me out and support this channel and give me a big thumbs up. Like this video, subscribe, hit notifications so you can be notified what's coming in the pipeline for you and your stimulus money. Also, y'all, sound off in the comments. I want to hear everything you have to say. And please share this content with as many people as you know that are struggling right now. People who are on unemployment, waiting for unemployment, stimulus checks, SBA loan and grant issues, everything in between. I've got tons of tools and tons of resources to help you during this very difficult time, and I would love nothing more than to do just that for as many people as possible. And guys, also, if you want more one-on-one stimulus help in your areas, make sure and hit us up on Facebook. Like I said, I want to try to get some comprehensive information together on what all the states are doing right now. However, that's going to take some time and some planning, but I do want to get that together for you guys here soon. So here's what I would tell you to do, though. In the meantime, go to my Facebook page, Katie's Insight, like the page, join the group. The group is Katie's Corner. Will be changed to Katie's Insight soon. Make sure and go in there, and you can ask all the stimulus questions you want. We have moderators and people who are trying to help you on a more one-on-one basis in your area. Now, if you ask questions and it doesn't get answered, be patient and just keep at it, because we only have a couple people who are doing this, and then the rest of it, we just have all of us who are sharing information. Or if you have information that could help people in different states, in your state, when it comes to stimulus checks, rental assistance, unemployment, bill help, anything, make sure go to the group and share this with everybody. It's just, by the way, this is all free. It's just, we're all just a group of people trying to help each other. That's really all it is. All we ask is that people be kind and respectful in the group. That's it. We're just all trying to help each other. When the government fails us, we try to come together. I'm a full firm believer in power of the people to help one another if we have to. Now the government that's what it's there for, but again, all sides have failed us. Okay guys, I'm gonna go ahead and get more videos ready because content is coming in. We have information coming in. I wanna make sure you get that as up to date and best as you can. Okay guys, take care, blessings, much love. I will see y'all soon. Hugs, mwah, and kisses. Bye guys.